It's time for overtime.
I think I'm ready for this.
Heck yeah.
In the world of sports, it's all about the playmakers in today's headlines, from locals to the pros, with interviews from local standouts and sports all-stars across the country that will have you talking.
It's in the left center field. That's hit well. That'll split the gap.
Hear from coaches to players, sports analysts, and broadcasters who are a part of the action every day. Overtime, now with Bert Rameen on ESPN 102.3 AM 1000 KSOO, Sioux Falls sports leader.
Welcome back into another edition of Overtime. This week is absolutely flying by. The lights are turned on outside. We're out of the darkness. Beautiful day in the 605. Pretty darn chilly, but happy to be sharing the airwaves with you as always right here on your Sioux Falls sports leader. It's Bert Rameen. It's Overtime. You can track me down at any time at Bert ESPN on Twitter or yell at me over the phone, aka the prize line, aka the ESPN hotline, 605-362-3776. On today's show, the latest from the NFL, drama, and more drama in San Francisco, in Philadelphia. Brett Favre's name is back in the news for interesting reasons, and more on the way. News from around the NFL coming up next on the show. We'll call that 11:25. Later on in hour number one, the latest from Major League Baseball's free agency. The Yankees make a big splash in the wake of getting spurned by Juan Soto. He takes his talents just across town to join the New York Mets, and they land a marquee pitcher on the open market. We'll introduce you and tell you about the fit and how it affects the remaining pitching market for the free agency across Major League Baseball. Latest odds and the draft order sorted out at the top for this year's Major League Baseball draft. At the end of hour number one, it's time to identify our masked man, masked woman. Identity Crisis by OPH. Every single Wednesday, I give you a sports figure, past or present. You tell me who the heck I'm talking about, and you win. It's that simple. Always brought to you by the Original Pancake House. Courtesy clue off the jump, a former NBA basketball player. Not a marquee name, but a winning name. No more clues for you off the jump here. The Identity Crisis at the end of hour number one. Hour number two, headlines and highlights are on the way. Latest from the NFL, standings, playoff current picture, and odds for the awards. Comeback player, coach of the year, offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year, the rookies, and of course, the MVP race. Who is the front runner and why Josh Allen should be right now if he's not? We dissect all of those odds coming up around 12:20, the good, the bad, the ugly, and round out today's show by talking SDSU Jackrabbit football with head coach Jimmy Rogers. The Jackrabbits are 11-2. They've got a rematch with Incarnate Word. The Cardinals coming back to Brookings for the second time in the last 5 months as we saw them back in September, and Incarnate Word back in town to face off with the Jackrabbits in this matchup earlier on this year. Pretty darn scary for the Jackrabbits at home, at least midway through the third quarter. If you look at the overall game flow in this one, it was tied at 17 apiece with 7 minutes to go in the third frame. SDSU dominant the rest of the way. They win the game by 21 points, 45-24, but it was tied at 17 mid-third quarter between the Cardinals and the Jackrabbits. Another intriguing matchup as part of a very successful and entertaining FCS college football playoffs thus far. Thursday night football in the NFL is coming up tomorrow night, of course. It's the Rams and the Niners, two teams that likely the loser of this game, a big-time backseat as far as potentially climbing back into the race for a postseason spot. Here's Matthew Stafford, Rams quarterback, talking about preparing for the Niners and their defense.
I'm just doing everything I can to try to wrap my head around our plan, how we want to attack and go out there and play as an offense so I can go, lead those guys in a tough environment, against a really good football team. So obviously when you're playing meaningful football in December, it's a great thing. And week to week, we just know they mean a lot. You know, go out there and do everything you can, try to win the game.
Best division in football this year right now is the NFC North as far as intrigue goes, and a lot of eyes and ears on a division down the stretch. You look no further than that NFC West right now. No one eliminated. Seattle, the top team, 8-5. Rams are 7-6, and the Cardinals and Niners are 6-7. Cards own the tiebreak over San Francisco, though currently both with records of 6-7. So the Niners are in the cellar. They're at home to the Rams, and they're also a 2.5-point favorite in the game coming up tomorrow night. Your Sunday slate: Chiefs at Browns, noon. Colts at Broncos, 3:25. Bills at Lions, same time. Steelers and the Eagles, same time as well. Kellen Moore, Eagles offensive coordinator, first year in that particular position, talking about how he can get star wide receiver A.J. Brown more involved in the offense.
I'm going to focus more on trying to find different ways to increase the likelihood of the ball going to him. Ultimately, the quarterback has to play based off the reaction of the defense and trust that there's progressions within a play. And then, you know, for us, we're always going to evaluate how can we get it to him sooner and create those opportunities. And again, it's really about probability. It's not every play is going to be able to say 100% of the time it's going to one player in particular, but how can we improve our opportunities there?
Philadelphia Eagles have won 9 straight games. They own a record of 11-2. They are 3 games better than the second place team in the division. That's the Washington Commanders. Philly is winning football games, playing winning football, and doing it by running the ball week in and week out. A little bit of a kerfuffle this week as Brandon Graham, longtime Eagle, went on the radio waves and essentially hinted at a little bit of a rift between quarterback Jalen Hurts and star receiver A.J. Brown. It was a close call, ugly offensive performance against the Carolina Panthers. Chris Canty offering up an interesting take here. Maybe we've seen the best of Philly this year, and we won't see better moving forward.
Like all these other teams that we're talking about competing for championships, they're going to be getting better. Nobody is stagnant. If you win a Super Bowl, that's because your team is really, really talented, and you continue to ascend while other teams plateaued. The question is, have we seen the best version of the Philadelphia Eagles this season? And I don't think it's off the board that might be the case, especially with the drama that's coming out right now. And here's the thing. We're not the ones that are airing the dirty laundry. It's the players in the locker room that are doing that.
Yeah.
Brandon Graham, as respected of a leader and a team captain as there is in the NFL, came out and said, we can't let the personal get in the way of business. When they asked A.J. Brown what's going wrong with the team, he said, yeah, we got to work on passing. What do you got to do to improve? Yeah, we got to work on passing. Pointing the finger at Jalen Hurts. Like that's not what you do if that's your guy and you got his back.
After a win.
But clearly that's not the case. Don't frame this up like we're the ones that are trying to create a problem. We're not creating a problem. We're just talking about the issues that they already told us they had.
Philadelphia most certainly creating their own drama at this point. They say in the NFL circles and football circles, winning cures everything. I don't care if you're 0-5 and you move to 1-5, or if you're 5-11 and you win to get to 6-11. A lot of times in the league, you win a game, all things are positive for at least that week. The Eagles keep on winning. They own the second longest win streak in the league, 9 straight games, trailing only Detroit, who has won 11 straight contests, and things are coming out in the negative in Philadelphia. Pretty intriguing stuff moving forward for Philly, trying to avoid another late season collapse. The Cincinnati Bengals just got done beating the Dallas Cowboys a couple nights ago on Monday Night Football. Joe Burrow commenting on the status of T. Higgins. He's playing on a 1-year franchise tag deal. Will he be back next year? Here's what Joe Burrow had to say.
Yeah, we don't know. But, you know, those discussions are ongoing, and I'm confident that I think we're going to be able to do what it takes to bring T back. You know, I know that I'm going to do what it takes to get him back, and so is he. We've had those talks, so you know, those are going to be off-season discussions, but I think we're excited about that opportunity.
It's going to be an interesting opportunity. T. Higgins will command quite a lot of money in the free agent market, likely a starring role in someone else's offense for T. Higgins. This year, T's been okay, battled injuries, 581 yards and 5 touchdowns. They did draft a youngster, Jermaine Burton, barely on the field so far. He's appeared in 11 games. He has just 14 targets and 4 catches this year. Other options in the offense, Andre Yoshavash is stepped up, 5 touchdown catches as well. T. Higgins important to the offense, but you got to pay Jamar Chase as well. Bengals have a laundry list of priorities. We'll see if T. Higgins emerges as one of those this offseason. They've been ignoring him and that contract situation for the last couple of years. Michelle Smallman and the crew out on Sportsmanlike this morning having a spirited debate over the most disappointing NFL team this year, and Smallman's take, frankly, surprising and in my opinion, not the most logical take here, but here's what Smallman had to say about the most disappointing team in the NFL this year.
I don't think there's any team that is more disappointing in the NFL currently than the Chicago Bears. Heading into this season, we talked ad nauseum about what a great job the Chicago Bears did. They lied in wait and passed on C.J. Stroud, and they passed on Jaden Daniels, and they got their guy in Caleb Williams, and they put all of this talent around him. We even said he might be walking into the single greatest situation a rookie quarterback, a number 1 overall pick, has ever walked into from a talent perspective. And they still couldn't get out of their own way. And I would say at the end of all of this with the Chicago Bears, we're going to view this season as a failure for them.
It absolutely is a failure for Chicago. You fired your head coach, all sorts of turmoil. The young quarterback doesn't look great. He looks good. He's had his moments. Chicago has had a disappointing year. But let me reframe and refocus here. Yes, we talked about a great landing spot for Caleb Williams. Wow, they got Rome Odunze. They brought in Keenan Allen. They got the defense already. Chicago, maybe they could be a playoff team. That is what we were talking about. We were not saying Chicago Bears Super Bowl, Chicago Bears playoff run. Oh my gosh, the Bears are going to do it for the first time since 1985. I don't know anyone that was saying that. Now let me reframe and refocus and talk about a couple other teams out there that we were talking about deep playoff expectations. The New York Jets. I was notably and guiltily saying the New York Jets are going to go on a run. Aaron Rodgers needs to just be a dude, and that's a playoff team. Championship caliber defense. Those are all words that came out of my mouth. So in my world, in my frame of reference here, the New York Jets are the most disappointing team. I don't care how big of a hater you were last season, this year, heading in with Aaron Rodgers. I don't think in your wildest dreams we would be talking about the New York Jets with 3 wins against 10 losses with Aaron Rodgers and trading for Devontae Adams and everything. The circus that has gone on in the Big Apple, immensely disappointing team. That's just one example, in my opinion, of a team that is more disappointing than the Bears this year. The Browns are wildly disappointing. They have 3 wins. The Bengals are incredibly disappointing. They're going to miss the playoffs, likely with a record of 5-8. The Jags are disappointing. I lump them in with Chicago. Other teams that fit the bill of being really disappointing. You can look at the Atlanta Falcons. They invested heavily, all caps, underlined, bolded in Kirk Cousins, and they're not likely to win their division. They're 6-7 through 13 games. The Niners are disappointing, as well as a few other teams, but the Bears are in the mix. But for me, you got to think San Francisco, you got to think Cincinnati, and you got to think the New York Jets. And among teams that are still winning right now, the Ravens have been really good this year, but hard to say 8-5. Little bit of an underachieving record, not immensely disappointing. They're going to go to the playoffs, likely win a playoff game or 2, but the Ravens could be inserted into the chat of underachiever so far this year in the National Football League. College football talk now. Saturday, best game of the year every year, Army and Navy from Landover, Maryland. That is 2 o'clock on Saturday. Watch it nationally on your CBS affiliate. FCS playoffs Friday night, Idaho visiting Montana State in Bozeman. 8 o'clock start on ESPN. Saturday, Incarnate Word at South Dakota State, 11 o'clock, ESPN with the TV coverage. UC Davis at USD down in Vermilion, 2 o'clock, ESPN Plus with the TV coverage. And Mercer, the Mercer Bears, the opponent going up to the Fargo Dome to battle the Bison, 2:30 on ABC. Bill Belichick still flirting with UNC in that opening down there in Chapel Hill. Here's Pete Thamel on what kind of control Belichick might be looking for if he does take the job.
Sources have told me that there's been outreach to staff. Sources have told me Bill Belichick is exploring different transfer portal players. There are signs of just how significant Bill Belichick's interest is in this North Carolina job. But what we don't have yet is a formalized deal. We don't have anything signed. We don't have an agreement for Bill Belichick to become North Carolina's coach. He would be entering college football in an era where we're shifting from NIL to revenue share. There are a lot of things to learn, a lot of things to run out. The reporting and organizational structure, I've been told, is extremely important to Bill Belichick. How would it be set up? What would it be like? Who would he report to? All of those things combined with the finances of getting North Carolina competitive again are important. Remember, North Carolina has not won an ACC football title since 1980.
That's Pete Thamel of ESPN. You're reading the tea leaves there. That is a credentialed ESPN reporter saying that Bill Belichick is reaching out to staff, reaching out to and inquiring about transfer portal athletes. This feels like a foregone conclusion to me. Is it stunning? Absolutely. I did not see this coming. Initial reporting, I said, wow, that's kind of funky and weird. Now I'm coming around on it, and I think this is going to happen in the next week or so. Bill Belichick likely, in my opinion, to land at UNC as the next coach of the Tar Heels. Colorado's do-it-all superstar Travis Hunter is one of 4 Heisman finalists. Here's what the youngster had to say about why he should win the Heisman Trophy this year.
Because I'm the lead on both sides of the ball. You know, I ended the game on a forced fumble, which most corners don't do. I got a forced fumble. I got 4 interceptions. I got pass deflections. I can tackle when I need to tackle. And on the offensive side of the ball, I'm just dumbing that receiver. You know, they got to double me whenever they get the chance. You know, I'm the best player on each side of the ball whenever I step out on the field. So hopefully everybody can see that.
Travis Hunter, certainly a generational talent. I've got people that have been texting me recently about my opinion on the Heisman Trophy. I love Ashton Jeanty. I really do, and have from the start of the season, even late last year when he showcased what he could do for the Broncos. This year, he has had a historically great season at the running back position. Most years, that would be enough to win the Heisman Trophy. I compared him to Melvin Gordon in that season. They are nearly identical. Yards per carry, total yards, touchdowns, receiving threat, all of it. Jeanty, a total package, first-round pick, likely feels like, in a weird way, in a disgusting way, feels like he's going to be a Dallas Cowboy somehow, some way. Travis Hunter, though, Jeanty, great, elite, best running back in the country at his specific position. Travis Hunter, top 5 receiver, top 5 corner, top 5 return man, and top 5 dude you would want the ball in his hands late in a game. Good tackler, has all of this stuff going for him. Do it all, generational talent, and the best two-way player we've seen in my lifetime in the college football world. Travis Hunter will win the Heisman Trophy this season. NBA Cup quarterfinals last night. Milwaukee moving on to the semis with a 114-109 win against Orlando. Giannis finishes with 37 points in the win. Here's what he had to say about moving on.
I'm very happy that we are able to go to Vegas. We have unfinished business. We are going to have fun. We're going to play good basketball. We are going to compete. You know, we're going to make it tough as much as possible for whoever we play, and we're going to try to win games.
Milwaukee won the first game of the night, 114-109. Bucks are now 13-11, climbing out of an early season hole. The other team moving on is Oklahoma City, 118-104 win against Dallas. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 39 points as his team also on to the semis.
For me personally, like, that's where you see who's really who and who you really are. As when you play the top of the top. And for me, it's just, that's where I want to be at the end of the day. I want to come out the West and I want to win an NBA championship. And they did it, so we're going to have to go through them. So it's a good measure. It's good to see where we are.
That's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 39 points. OKC moving on to the semis with a record of 19-5. Tonight in the NBA, more quarterfinal action. You got the Hawks and the Knicks from MSG, 6 o'clock on ESPN. Warriors at Rockets, 8:30 tonight on TNT. Women's basketball yesterday, USD lost on the road in Cedar Falls against UNI, 78-59. Grace Larkins, another great performance, nearly a triple-double, 17 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists in the loss. USD is 4-7. Tonight in women's hoops, SDSU plays host to Dakota Wesleyan at 7 o'clock. Tarleton State in town to battle 24th-rated Nebraska at 7. Minnesota home to Jackson State at 7 o'clock. And Iowa State clashes with Iowa. Ranked battle in the Hawkeye State, 8 o'clock on Fox Sports 1 from Iowa City. Men's basketball yesterday, Chase Forte goes off for 25 points, and USD picks up a big win over visiting Wyoming, 82-81. Yotes are cooking on the men's side this year. They are 8-4. And tonight in men's basketball, South Dakota State battling Nevada on the road. That is a 9 o'clock tip time from Reno. NHL hockey, Colorado, the Avalanche get 3 goals and 2 assists from Mikko Rantanen in a 6-2 runaway victory over Pittsburgh. The Avs are 17-13-0. Winnipeg beats the brakes off of Boston 8-1. Minnesota in a shootout victory, 5-4 winners over Utah. The Wild are 19-5-4. And St. Louis also an extra period winner, overtime winner in Vancouver 4-3. The Blues 14-13-2 this season. Tonight in the NHL, Rangers at Sabres 6 o'clock on TNT. Ducks at Senators 6:30 on ESPN+. Those are the lone games tonight across the league. Major League Baseball, Soto is a Met, and Jeff Passan saying a lot of teams pretty thankful that they missed out on the slugger.
It's kind of amazing the Yankees lost out on Juan Soto and might be better off. And it's one of those situations where the baseball people, they look at this and they weren't rooting for Soto not to sign with them, but it didn't kill them all that much. And here's the thing. This is not a good baseball deal. In the context of everything else in the sport, it is an exceptional overpay. But it also shows you that when a guy is 26 years old and the caliber of Juan Soto and he hits free agency, it's a bonanza. Age matters more than just about anything. Talent matters, don't get me wrong, but when you can combine talent and age, the world is your oyster.
That's ESPN's Jeff Passan. More on Major League Baseball free agency. Have the Minnesota Twins made a move and more coming up around 11:35 here in due time. Into your Reliabank headlines of the day now for hour number 1. It took all 40 minutes last night, but the USD men's basketball team remained perfect at home with an 82-81 win over Wyoming. Inside the Sanford Coyote Sports Center, the Yotes improved to 7-0 at the home this year and were led by Chase Forte, who posted his 4th 20-plus point game of the season. Forte finished with 25 and wasted little time getting the offense going in the second half. Scored 8 of the team's first 12 points to give USD a 4-point lead just 5 minutes in to the second frame of the night. The Yotes coming up next, back inside the Sanford Coyote Sports Center on Saturday. A home contest against Western Illinois. That is at 11 o'clock start time. Final road trip of the non-conference slate ended with the Yotes falling to Northern Iowa last night in Cedar Falls. Grace Larkins ended an assist shy of a triple-double. The Yotes also got a season-high 10 points from Adara Groman. Alexi Hempe was the third Yote in double figures, scoring 10 points, 9 of which coming from beyond the arc. But Northern Iowa built a 20-point halftime lead off of great shooting numbers in the first half. The Nationals' leading three-point shooting team hit 50% of their shots from downtown in the first half and shot 50% from the field. The Yotes converted the same number of threes, but on 4 more attempts in the half and only shot 35% from the floor. 20 points at halftime, a little closer in the end, 78-59. The final score. USD coming up next. Much needed rest after 3 games, 2 on the road in the last week. USD also gets to play their next 3 inside the Sanford Coyote Sports Center at home. After being on the road for 7 of their first 11, the Yotes host Wyoming on Sunday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. 3 members of the South Dakota State volleyball team earned recognition from the American Volleyball Coaches Association on Tuesday, including a Northwest Region Coach of the Year honor for head coach Dan Georgalis. In addition to Georgalis, Sydney Shetnin and Sylvie Zagunst became the first Jackrabbits to be named to an AVCA All-Region team in SDSU's D1 era. Georgalis, in his 5th year at SDSU, guided the Jackrabbits to a 27-3 overall record this year, as the program returned to the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2007. All sorts of highlights this year for USD volleyball, SDSU volleyball. Find more about that one, GoJacks.com. And lastly, finishing up your hour number 1 headlines of the day, brought to you proudly by Reliabank. Nebraska football has promoted John Butler to be the new defensive coordinator as part of a staff reshaping on that side of the ball. According to Coach Matt Rule last night, Butler, who currently serves as Nebraska's secondary coach and defensive pass game coordinator, had already been named the team's interim DC for the team's game against Boston College coming up in New York. He will replace Tony White, who left last week to become the DC down in Tallahassee with the Florida State Seminole program. Butler served as Penn State's DC in 2013, then followed Coach Bill O'Brien to the Houston Texans, where he coached the secondary for 4 different seasons. So that's your new DC down there in Lincoln. John Butler already on staff, just a reassignment to the head defensive coordinator position for the Huskers on the football field. Those are your Reliabank's headlines of the day, as always brought to you by Reliabank for a plain and simply better local banking option. Check them out in person in the 605 or online at Reliabank.com. When we come back, it's time to dive right in to everything you might have missed in the last couple days from the National Football League. Injuries, news from around the league, and Brett Favre back in the news. We dive into that and more on the way. This Wednesday edition of Overtime continues next right here on ESPN 102.3 AM 1000 KSOO.
The best sporting matchups and coverage. We are ESPN 102.3 and AM 1000 KSOO, Sioux Falls sports leader.
Right back with you on this Wednesday, December 11th edition of Overtime. Welcome back to the show. Time to talk NFL football, and it starts with a frankly uncomfortable video clip that was circulating yesterday that'll soon to be featured on the New York Sack Exchange 30 for 30 documentary that'll premiere on Friday. Former New York Jets star pass rusher Mark Gastineau, who has apparently carried a grudge against Brett Favre for over 2 decades, recently confronted the Hall of Fame quarterback last year, not recently, at a memorabilia show and accused him of deliberately taking a sack that cost Gastineau the NFL's single-season sack record. An angry Gastineau attended a memorabilia show in Chicago with 2 other members of the Jets Sack Exchange, a 4-man defensive line that dominated the early 1980s. He approached an unsuspecting Favre at a table where the Packers legend was signing autographs. I will certainly let the video speak for itself, because it is not pretty between the two. The two shook hands, and then Gastineau suggesting, when you fell down for him, I'm going to get my sack back. I'm going to get it back, dude. Favre said, you'd probably hurt me, trying to laugh it off. Gastineau was not playing around. I don't care. You hurt me. You hurt me. Do you hear me? Watch the video for yourself. Not a good scenario. In things like this, where you're a pro athlete, everyone has immense respect for you. Your record has stood the test of time. Although Gastineau's record has been bested by Strahan, and then also tied Strahan's record by T.J. Watt more recently. Gastineau, Favre, and everyone can take some clues from youngsters. I'm a dad of 3, and oftentimes the wisdom of children, the innocence of children, is something that you should definitely heed and listen to. And also kids' movies. Frozen has this great song called Let It Go. I think it's time for Mark Gastineau to do just that in this scenario. Favre, pretty darn respectable in terms of what he had to say in the wake of the video getting circulated for the upcoming documentary. Favre said he didn't intentionally take the sack to hurt Gastineau, saying there was no malice on my part. And then Favre went on to say, I hope the controversy brings attention to just how great Mark Gastineau was. He belongs in Canton. Respectfully for Favre there, and again, not the greatest guy recently, allegedly in the news, Brett Favre, but in that scenario, classy commentary to hopefully put that behind the 2 NFL legends. The Cleveland Browns are moving on from wide receiver Kadarius Toney after a pair of costly blunders in the most recent loss for the Browns this year. Toney, who was signed from the practice squad to the active roster ahead of the matchup this past weekend, was flagged for 15 yards for taunting after catching a punt early in the fourth quarter, with the Browns losing by 20, and then later muffed a punt that the Steelers recovered. Unlikely he will return to the team or the practice squad after the loss, which officially eliminated the Browns from the playoffs. Coach Kevin Stefanski said the penalty would be quote-unquote addressed, and the addressing of that penalty leads to Kadarius Toney off the team. Same division, different story. The Steelers likely to be without their top wide receiver for the second week in a row. Mike Tomlin said yesterday that there's a, quote, outside chance that George Pickens does play against the Eagles on Sunday after an MRI revealed a little bit more significant hamstring injury than was initially believed. A league source told ESPN that Pickens has a grade 2 hamstring strain. You know anything about receivers, the explosive nature of that position, those could linger, as we saw with Justin Jefferson last year. Unlikely to have Pickens back in the lineup coming up this weekend. Yesterday, we told you about Dallas Cowboy linebacker DeMarvion Overshown with a significant injury, and we have the details for you. It is about as bad as you can imagine toward the ACL, MCL, and PCL in his right knee, and is scheduled to have surgery later this week, according to sources. Significant recovery time will be needed after the surgery. Generally, one knee ligament tear with the surgery used to be thought of as a 1-year recovery. You get 3 here, probably at least that time for DeMarvion Overshown. Very promising young player. Coach Mike McCarthy said after the game the injury was of a serious nature. 3 different ligaments torn in the knee, right knee for DeMarvion Overshown. All the best in his recovery moving forward. Well, this week has a lot of themes in the NFL, and one of them is pissed off wide receivers letting their dirty laundry be known. And we heard it from A.J. Brown, not directly, but indirectly. And now we're hearing it indirectly / directly through social media from 49ers wide receiver Deebo Samuel. One day after taking to social media and attributing his downturn in production to a lack of opportunities, Niners wide receiver Deebo Samuel stood by his assertion on Tuesday. On Monday, Samuel wrote on Twitter, not struggling at all, just not getting the ball. He later deleted the post and added a separate one that said he was, quote, not hating on any of my teammates. With the Niners preparing for the Rams on Thursday night, Samuel was asked if he wanted to offer any further clarification on his post. Samuel saying, you read what you read. I'm a little frustrated for sure. Frustration absolutely warranted. The team is disappointing. They're not winning. He's not as involved as he should be. But man, could we kind of learn a lesson here at some point? Not going to do any good to vent to social media, put it out into the ether, if you will, for everyone to react to. Why not go to your position coach, fellow receivers, quarterback, other people getting these targets and talk to the offense, a team-only, player-only meeting. There's so many other scenarios that would work better than this. But Deebo Samuel standing by a deleted post in which he's begging for more opportunities in the offense this year. And latest NFL news as of this morning, international play is not going anywhere, and in fact, it is going just about everywhere. The NFL will play a regular season game for the first time in Berlin next season, Berlin, Germany. The game will be played at the Olympic Stadium. It'll be the 5th regular season game played in Germany. The NFL has played games in Munich and Frankfurt all since the 2022 season, and from 1990 to 1994, the NFL played 5 American Bowl games at the Olympic Stadium, and the venue also was home to the Berlin Thunder of NFL Europe from 2003 to 2007. So Berlin, Germany, the new target for the NFL. First ever NFL game coming to southern Germany for the first time. And that's coming up next season. That's the latest from the NFL. We certainly have a lot to get to from Major League Baseball. The free agency chase and hunt is on. Soto's got a deal, and the Yankees ink a deal with Braves pitcher, Braves lefty Max Fried. We react to that deal, get the financials, and recap it all. Coming up next, Major League Baseball talk on Overtime.
Streaming live on. This is Overtime with Bert Ramin on ESPN 102.3 and AM 1000 KSOO, Sioux Falls sports leader.
It's hour number 1 on a Wednesday. Welcome back to Overtime. It's Bert Ramin back here with you. Track me down. Fight with me on Twitter at any time at Bert ESPN. Let's dive in to all things Major League Baseball. Free agency roared last week into this week. Soto's got his deal with the New York Mets, and the Yankees off of that courtship and failed courtship with Juan Soto. They've officially started buying elsewhere. Left-hander Max Fried and the Yankees are in agreement on an 8-year, $218 million contract pending a physical. According to ESPN, it is the largest guarantee in baseball history for a left-handed pitcher. Now, what does the impact of this look like? With the signing of Fried, according to Jesse Rogers, the path has been cleared for Corbin Burnes to ink the highest offseason contract for a pitcher this winter. The Giants remain the favorites for his services, which likely will come at a cost closer to $300 million than $200 million. Fried again, 8 years, $218. Fried's deal with the Yankees for 8 years sets the bar for Burnes, who should blow by that number. That's the latest as far as pitchers go. Let's talk about the latest news from around the league. The Blue Jays have agreed to a deal with the Guardians for all-star second baseman Andres Jimenez. According to the team's announcement yesterday, the Guardians acquired infielder Spencer Horwitz from the Blue Jays in the deal, but then traded him to the Pirates later last night in exchange for right-hander Luis Ortiz and lefties Michael Kennedy and Josh Hartle. Kennedy and Hartle were the number 15 and 17 ranked prospects in Pittsburgh's farm system, respectively, according to MLB.com. The Guardians also sent right-hander Nick Sandlin to the Blue Jays in the trade and acquired minor league outfielder Nick Mitchell. A lot of moving pieces there. Elsewhere, the Texas Rangers agreed to trade for power-hitting corner infielder Jake Berger. Sources told ESPN on Tuesday night. In exchange, the Marlins will receive 2 shortstop prospects in Echedry Vargas and Max Acosta, and a young left-handed starting pitcher in Brian Mendoza. The 28-year-old Berger, controllable for 4 years and compiled 63 homers with the Marlins and the Chicago White Sox over the past 2 years. He is now a member of the Texas Rangers. Speaking of those Rangers, Nathan Eovaldi agreed to terms with Texas on Tuesday, a deal that keeps him with the team that he helped win the 2023 World Series. Contract is for 3 years and $75 million. That's according to ESPN's Jeff Passan. Eovaldi, who will be 35 at the start of next season, made 29 starts for Texas this year. He was 12-8 with a 3.80 ERA for his career. Pretty darn even, Steven, 91 and 81 over 13 years, a 4.07 ERA. Nathan Eovaldi staying put for now with the Texas Rangers. Somebody who doesn't want to stay put for now, and the team doesn't want him either, apparently, is Nolan Arenado in St. Louis. The agent for the Cardinals' third baseman said on Tuesday that there is ongoing discussion with the team's front office as it relates to a potential trade of the 8-time All-Star and 10-time Gold Glove recipient, who is also willing to switch positions to help facilitate a deal. The 33-year-old could be on the move as the Cardinals enter a transition phase and are unlikely to compete for a playoff spot next year. Nolan wants to win. And there's more details, but that's really between them, and I don't have to have any effect on that. That's according to Cardinals President of Baseball Operations, John Mozeliak. What he's trying to do, that's according to, Agent Joel Wolf said at the winter meetings. Arenado is offered to play first base if it helps to facilitate the trade process, and the Yankees are among the interested teams. New York could still play him at third by moving Jazz Chisholm to second, assuming free agent Gleyber Torres doesn't re-sign with the team. Yankees have options, and I would say the Yankees the favorite to make the trade, make the deal for the Cardinals star, Nolan Arenado. Lastly here, the baseball world might still be buzzing about Juan Soto's arrival with the New York Mets, but President of Baseball Operations David Stearns has to turn his attention to another free agent, first baseman Pete Alonso. Stearns saying, we'd love to bring him back. He's been a great Met. He's had some enormous hits for us, and we'll see where that goes. Stearns could not comment on the Soto deal because it's not official, but he knows he'll be dealing with the Sluggers agent Scott Boras again because he also represents Pete Alonso. Maybe that was part of the grand plan. We're going to do this item number A, and we're going to go here for item number B. Pete Alonso very well could be back with the Mets and joining new teammate Juan Soto. And lastly, last night, the Washington Nationals will control the first pick of the 2025 Major League Baseball draft for the third time in their franchise history. After winning the draft lottery last night at baseball's winter meetings, Washington had the fourth best odds to do so, just over 10%, and did land the top pick. The Rockies and the Marlins, 22.5% each, were tied for the best chance, but the Marlins fell all the way down to 7th, and the Rockies will pick 4th. 4th. The Angels were a big winner last night. They'll pick 2nd after having the 3rd best odds for the selection. And the Chicago White Sox, despite losing a modern-day record 121 games, were not eligible for their lottery pick, one of the top 6 selections, because the CBA stipulates a team that pays into the revenue sharing plan cannot hold a lottery pick in consecutive drafts. The White Sox chose 5th last season. If you're wondering where the Twins ended up in said lottery, Minnesota will pick 16th in the draft this year. Top 5, Nationals, Angels, Mariners, Rockies, and the aforementioned St. Louis Cardinals. That's the latest from the Major League Baseball world. The deals keep on coming, and I imagine the flirtation with Nolan Arenado and other trade targets will also heat up in the coming hours, coming days, coming weeks. We'll keep you updated as we learn more from Major League Baseball's free agency and the offseason. When we come back, it's time to test your wits with the identity crisis. I got a player on my mind. I gave you the courtesy clue off the jump. If you think you know who I'm talking about, as soon as I start delivering clues, you can dial me up and win big at 605-362-3776. The contest line always here on Overtime, 605-362-3776. The identity crisis brought to you by the Original Pancake House, coming up next on Overtime.
ESPN Sioux Falls gets you back to more of Overtime with Bert Ramin on ESPN 102.3 and AM 1000 KSOO, Sioux Falls sports leader.
Welcome back to this Wednesday edition of Overtime, final segment of hour number 1. Just about time to test your wits with today's identity crisis. I have a former NBA player on my mind. If you think you know who I'm talking about, dial me up, 605-362-3776 to win big here in a moment. Still to come on today's show, latest from the NFL, the playoff picture, who could be in, who could still fall out of the postseason in the AFC. Not likely in the NFC. We could see a lot of movers and shakers. Packers might be involved in that. Maybe the NFC West has some sort of resurgence. We'll wait and see. Also still to come, the good, the bad, the ugly, and our weekly conversation, South Dakota State Jackrabbit football with head coach Jimmy Rogers to round out the show. We'll call that 1240-ish today on the program. But now it's time to round out hour number 1 on a Wednesday. The only way we know how, it's testing your wits with the identity crisis, always brought to you by the Original Pancake House.
I don't know. Who are you? Me? I know who I am. I'm a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude.
Well, this is exhausting. Let's see if you can tell us the sports figure we're talking about in today's identity crisis on Overtime.
You can win a big-time prize pack once a month with us for our contests over the air here on Overtime. If you have not yet won this month or in the past 30 days, you can dial us up right now, 605-362-3776. As soon as I start to deliver clues, you can dial me up and think that you know the answer. Let's do it. The Identity Crisis brought to you by the Original Pancake House for the very best in breakfast. You can check out OPH anytime in Sioux Falls off of 41st and Kiwanis. Here are your clues. Courtesy clue, former NBA basketball player. Clue number 1, he wore number 4 and number 9 in his career. This player played shooting guard predominantly, also was a point guard for a decent stretch of his career. This player attended the University of Miami of Ohio, not the Hurricanes, but the Redhawks, Miami of Ohio. Career stretch from 1986 to 2001. Long, successful career, so successful that this player was a part of 5 NBA championship winning teams. He played for the Cavaliers, the Clippers, the Bulls, and the Lakers. Who the heck am I talking about today? If you think you have an idea, 605-362-3776, the number to dial right now. You could win an OPH gift card and more. I got some Skyforce tickets, Augie men's and women's basketball tickets, and more. 605-362-3776. I think I've got a winner on line 1. Welcome into Overtime. What's your name?
Colin.
Colin, what's today's correct answer?
I'm not positive. Ron Harper?
Oh, you are positive, Colin. Yeah. Don't sell yourself short. You get the prize back, my friend. Job well done. Hang on hold. I'll grab your info from you, Colin. Congratulations.
Perfect.
All right, Colin, a winner today. Ron Harper, a dude that when I was a kid in the Bulls' heyday of the mid to late 90s, I thought Ron Harper was the absolute greatest. Every player on that team, of course, Michael Jordan, Tony Kukoc, Dennis Rodman, everyone across the team, Scottie Pippen, those dudes were bona fide heroes to so many kids, myself included, from sea to shining sea. But in that tenure, played for the Bulls from 94 to 1999. Points per game, Ron Harper was a role player. 7 points per game. A career high with the Bulls was 11.2 in a very disappointing 1998-1999 season in Chicago. He won 3 NBA Finals with the Bulls and then had a pretty great follow-up chapter to his Bulls career. Went and joined the Kobe Bryant-led LA Lakers. Shaq there as well. 2000 champions there, 7 points per game. In the following year, also opportunity to win an NBA Finals. 5-time NBA champion Ron Harper. Today's correct answer with the identity crisis, always brought to you by the original Pancake House. By the way, it is that time of year. You want to feel like you're in a Christmas gingerbread house and go out to eat and have some fun. Go on out to OPH. That is a beautiful place with even better breakfast and better service as well. Fresh squeezed orange juice, crispy thick bacon, and so much more. It is a great place. One-stop shop. One of my favorite places to take people from out of town when they're here visiting. What is Sioux Falls like? OPH has the answer. Great service every time. The original Pancake House, SiouxFalls.com. Join the wait list on the way, especially for those busy weekend days. The Identity Crisis, always brought to you by OPH. That is the Identity Crisis on a Wednesday. And believe it or not, that is hour number 1 already. Came and went in the blink of an eye. Hour 2 right around the corner. Headlines and highlights coming up next. The latest from the NFL, good, bad, and the ugly. And of course, our conversation. Jackrabbit head football coach Jimmy Rogers set to join us around 12:40. We take the break. Back with hour number 2 after this. It's overtime on a Wednesday.